Islamic Sicily, A History. Chapter 1. Early Arab Incursions. The island of Sicily, divided from Italy by the narrow Strait of Messina, is almost a geographical extension of the Italian peninsula. On the other hand, it is also situated at easily navigable distance from North Africa, where Islam established itself as a religion and as a state in the 7th century, and where Islam remains entrenched to the present day. Sicily can be divided into 3 geographical regions: the Val di Mazzara, the Val di Noto, and Val di Mone. This division of considerable importance during the Muslim occupation of the island. Islam became for a time the dominant religion in Val di Mazzara, but there were fewer Muslims in the Val di Noto, and throughout the period the population of Val di Mone remained predominantly Christian. When the Islamic State expanded and became an empire under the second Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, Sicily and part of southern Italy were Byzantine provinces. Umar radiallahu anhu was opposed to military adventures across the high seas or even great rivers, but this policy was revised, if not reversed, under his successor Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. To defend the recently occupied coastal towns in Syria and in Egypt against the Byzantines, who had an effective navy, naval forces were built up by Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, then governor of Syria, and Abdullah bin Sa'd, the governor of Egypt. Soon these naval forces played offensive as well as defensive roles against the Byzantines in the eastern Mediterranean. Even earlier, Byzantine Sicily had indirectly felt the effect of expanding Muslim conquests, for in 642 to 643 AD, some refugees from Tripoli, fleeing from the occupying forces of Amr bin al-As, took refuge in Sicily. But the first Arab naval incursion took place in 652 AD, when Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan sent his namesake Muawiyah bin Khudayj to raid Sicily. Since the Syrian Arab navy was still in its infancy, this was a distant and bold venture. It has been suggested that it was planned by Muawiyah as governor of Syria for motives of prestige in his rivalry with the governor of Egypt, Abdullah. Muawiyah bin Khudayj's simple flotilla reached Sicily, but could not make any headway against Byzantine defenses. His chief adversary in Sicily was Olympius, the Exarch of Ravenna, while the Byzantine governor of North Africa, Gregory, proclaimed himself emperor and threw in his lot with the Arabs. An epidemic broke out in the army of Olympius, in which he himself died. But the Arabs could not gain much success in Sicily, and Ibn Khudayj returned to Syria with some booty and captives. The second Muslim incursion into Sicily in 667 AD was also an enterprise involving the 2 Muawiyahs. Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan was by now well entrenched as undisputed caliph and founder of the Umayyad dynasty. Muawiyah bin Khudayj was now his governor in Egypt. The latter sent a naval expedition against Sicily under Abdullah bin Qais, who came into possession of much booty, including icons of gold and silver studded with pearls. These were sent to the Umayyad Caliph, who, according to legend, had them sent to India via Basra to be sold at a higher price. With the Muslim occupation of North Africa, the Byzantine Emperor Constantine II left Constantinople in 662 AD to concentrate his attention on Byzantium's western provinces in South Italy and Sicily, where he remained until his death in 668. This move was to protect the Greek mainland from being surrounded by the Arabs, which would have been the case if they had gained control of these western provinces. Constans had faced difficulties in working out this policy owing to the resistance of the Lombards in southern Italy and to want of funds. It is possible that the Arab incursion led by Abdullah bin Qais took place in 668 or 669 AD, profiting from the disorders which followed the assassination of Constans II at Syracuse in 668. Sicily was used as a base by the Byzantines for their attack against the Arabs at Barca in North Africa in 681 to 682 AD. During the reign of Abd al-Malik, the Arab governor of North Africa, Hassan bin Nu'man, occupied Carthage in 693 and 694 AD, and Byzantine and Berber refugees from there fled to Sicily, which became once again the Byzantine staging ground for an expedition against Carthage in 697 AD. In the early 8th century, there were several Arab raids on Sicily, not always successful. With the appointment as governor of North Africa of Musa bin Nosir, during whose period of office the Arab conquest of Spain took place, Arab raids on Sicily became more frequent. In 704 AD, he sent a flotilla under his son Abdullah to raid the Mediterranean islands, the Balearics, Sicily, and Sardinia. The Sicilian part of this series of raids consisted of taking possession temporarily of a town of which we do not know the name, and gaining enormous booty, so that according to Arab accounts, the share each soldier received was 100 gold dinars. In 710 AD, Musa sent another lucrative expedition against Sardinia. There were several other minor raids on Sicily in the first 2 decades of the 8th century by those Arabs who had already occupied the island of Pantelleria, that is Corcyra, in 700 AD. This was a pointer to the future thrust in the direction of Sicily. In 727 AD, an Arab force under Bishr bin Safwan raided Sicily, took a large number of captives, and made a truce with the Byzantines, but the truce was not observed. Bishr's successor in Ifriqiya, Ubaidah bin Abd al-Rahman, sent an expedition against the island in the following year under Usman bin Abi Ubaidah, and another in 729 AD under Mustansir bin al-Harith. Neither of these expeditions achieved any considerable results. An Arab expedition from Syria raided Sicily in 730 AD. Another expedition under Abd al-Malik bin Qatan raided the island in 732 AD to seize booty and prisoners, while in the same year Abdullah bin Ziyad made an incursion into Sardinia. An expedition sent by Ubaidah, the governor of Ifriqiya, and led by Abu Bakr bin Suwaid in 733 AD, lost several ships burnt by naphtha flames thrown by the Byzantine navy. Ubaidah's successor in Egypt and North Africa, Ubaidullah bin Habhab, sent an expedition against Sicily in 734 AD, which was also unsuccessful and lost many prisoners to the Greeks. In 735 AD, another expedition sent by the same governor raided Sardinia. This governor of Ifriqiya was the first Arab administrator to contemplate and attempt the conquest of Sicily. The expedition he sent in 740 AD under Habib bin Abi Ubaidah, a nephew of the famous Arab general Uqba bin Nafi, who had earlier raced across North Africa to the Atlantic, was a major undertaking designed to occupy Sicily. Habib temporarily occupied some part of the island, made incursions into the interior, and forced Syracuse to pay tribute. The expedition had to be recalled, however, owing to the revolt of the Berber Maysara, who, taking advantage of the absence of a significant part of the Arab Jund in the Sicilian expedition, had occupied Tangier. To suppress his revolt, not only was an expeditionary force dispatched from Spain, but the army committed to Sicily had to be called back. Dear listeners, support me with Buy Me a Coffee or a Super Thanks. Habib's son Abd al-Rahman, who later seized power in North Africa, sent his brother Abdullah on an expedition against Sicily in 753 AD. The expedition gained more success than any other Arab venture so far, but it also had to be recalled owing to Berber revolts in North Africa. Abd al-Rahman bin Habib's ambition to occupy Sicily and Sardinia came to naught. Constantine V sent a powerful Byzantine fleet to protect both the islands. The troubles in North Africa provided the Byzantines with the opportunity of fortifying the two islands, especially Sicily, and building up undisturbed a powerful fleet in the central Mediterranean. For nearly half a century, Sicily remained safe from any significant Arab attacks, whereas there had been several expeditions against Sicily under the Umayyads. There were hardly any under the early Abbasids between 753 AD and 800 AD. The Byzantines were also able to repair ports and construct fortresses in southern Italy, and these were used as bases against Muslim shipping in the Mediterranean. From these bases, in the second half of the 8th century, the Byzantine naval units made incursions against the coasts of Arab North Africa. It was for defense against these Byzantine attacks that Hathama bin Ayyan, the governor of Ifriqiya, built the maritime rampart at Tripoli and the Ribat, that is a military hospice, at Monastir in 796 AD. In spite of the Byzantine attacks on Muslim shipping, there is reason to believe that active trade continued between Byzantine Sicily and the Arab world in this period. It is possible that some Muslim merchants lived in Sicily, nor was the period devoid of dramatic episodes. In 782 AD, Elpidius, the Byzantine governor of Sicily, rose against the Empress Irene, declared himself emperor, was defeated and took refuge in Muslim North Africa. Harun al-Rashid's envoy to Charlemagne, accompanied by an envoy from his vassal in Ifriqiya, Ibrahim bin al-Aghlab, landed at Pisa in 801 AD, and the two Muslim envoys presented their credentials to the Frankish emperor at a camp between Vercelli and Ivrea. Harun al-Rashid had appointed Ibrahim bin Aghlab as an almost autonomous vassal in return for a tribute of 40,000 dinars per year. One of the problems Ibrahim bin al-Aghlab faced was that of the security of Arab trade in the Mediterranean and along the coastline of his emirate. For this purpose, he concluded a peace treaty for 10 years with Constantine, the Byzantine patrician in Sicily. This treaty was not popular in Ifriqiya, and though the Aghlabid regime abstained from some years from raiding Byzantine shipping, its rivals, the Umayyads of Spain and the Idrisids of Morocco, raided Corsica and Sardinia between 806 and 821 AD. The Aghlabid policy changed to some extent with the accession of Ibrahim bin Aghlab's son, Abul Abbas Abdullah I, in 812 AD, who at once set about building a strong navy. When this news was passed on by the Christians living in the Aghlabid dominion to the Byzantine patrician in Sicily, Byzantium strengthened its naval presence in the island. It has also been suggested that an expedition sent by Charlemagne to Sicily was intended primarily to forestall an Arab invasion. An Aghlabid flotilla was battered by a storm near Sardinia. All these factors must have contributed to the conclusion of a new peace treaty for 10 years between Abdul Abbas and Gregory, the Byzantine patrician of Sicily, in 813 AD. Prisoners were exchanged, and the question of the safety of Arab merchants in Sicily and of Byzantine traders in Ifriqiya was also taken into account. The Byzantine Aghlabid truce ended abruptly in 819 and 820 AD with an Arab expedition against Sicily commanded by Muhammad bin Abdullah bin al-Aghlab, a cousin of the ruling Emir Ziyadatullah I. The Arabs took numerous prisoners and withdrew. End of chapter 1.